Welcome to another episode of We Don't Die. I'm your host, Sandra Champlain, author of the international best-selling book called We Don't Die, A Skeptic's Discovery of Life After Death. And just a reminder, my home base is WeDon'tDie.com, where you can always find our free Sunday gathering, inspirational service with medium demonstration included. It starts 2 p.m. New York time and 11 a.m. Pacific time. They're all recorded, so you can watch the replays if you cannot join us live. Also, I created a Patreon group. This is for people that are really interested in evidence of the afterlife. I have compiled all my episodes together between this show and my other show, which I'm a reporter on the afterlife. It's called Shades of the Afterlife on iHeartRadio. They're all together in one place. There's now about 650 episodes. So you can get the list, you can click on the ones that interest you and listen. So if you're a fan of my work or you're really interested in getting some great information, you can find that all at WeDon'tDie.com. Also, if you don't yet have a copy of my book and you want a free copy on that homepage at WeDon'tDie.com, just enter your name and email address at the bottom. It says you get the first few chapters. The secret is it's the entire book. The biggest chapter, most important to me, is chapter 10, which is how to survive grief, and really gives some wonderful tools to understand the grieving process and things to move through it. So I want you to have that if you don't have that already. Okay, enough about me. Let's meet our guest. Chris Ryan has worked professionally in marketing communications within radio and advertising for more than 35 years. He and his wife, Sin, live in San Diego, and he's now the owner of his own video production company. But what brings him here today? Well, he's a parent, and he's a part of a club that no one wants to belong to. However, he has compiled a new book with 25 stories. It's called Helping Fathers Heal: Grief, Hope, and Our Search for Connection. Chris believes that there can be healing when we connect with each other in love, choose to remember and celebrate our children's lives, and travel the hard journey called life together as brothers. You can find his professional website at chrisryanvideo.com. And I also encourage you, whether you're a parent or not, to go to helpingparentsheal.org. You can tap on different affiliate tabs there: helping parents heal, helping fathers heal, helping siblings heal. And also, even if you're not a parent, click on the YouTube tab, because there are tons of free videos open for all. So let's meet him. Chris Ryan, welcome to We Don't Die Radio.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Sandra. I appreciate your introduction. And I think my book fits very neatly into chapter 10 of your book, because it's all about learning how to deal with and heal through a traumatic upset in our lives. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Happy to have you. Yeah, there's nothing worse than to you and your wife. Just our condolences, and there's no words to make it easier. But what I
Yeah.
can tell you is, out of grief, I can see you went on that spiritual journey, and now you're
Mhm.
out to share. So you're making a difference with many. So I've got many more people that will appreciate hearing your story and your words. So tell us a little bit about you and your wife and Sean, and then your story.
Sure. Well, here, I grew up in San Diego. That's where I am right now, in the North County of San Diego. And lived here for the first 21 years of my life until I started in my radio career. I wanted to be a DJ. I love music. My son and I, Sean, we both shared this passion. Long before he was born, I was on the air playing kind of music that he would later come to love. So we had that in common later in his life. You know, radio led me into different avenues: marketing agencies, communications, and ultimately videography, which I've shot many, well, hundreds of videos here and around the world in different countries, mainly for corporate types of business, instructional videos, and those types of things. But I love storytelling, and I love doing videos that have a story. And I have a passion for helping people tell their story. So that part of my professional career kind of dovetailed into the spark that led to the book, which is giving a platform for other fathers to tell their story, which for most of them was the first time they'd really ever tried to put that in writing. So that was a whole process in and of itself. But Sean was born in 1997, so he would be turning 26 this year. In his teenage years, he struggled a lot with self-image, anxiety, depression. Is one of those Gen Z kids that he didn't isolate necessarily, but he was an only child. So he did have a lot of alone time. So, like, I was on the radio for 20 years, he never once turned on the radio. All of his music came from YouTube and Napster and file sharing and different types of online resources. He's a great kid, though. We had a good relationship, very funny, very, very headstrong. I can't wait to learn more about his soul plan one of these days when I get a chance to be in heaven with him and we get a chance to do a life review. Because, yeah, he was a perfect child for us, but it was a challenge. Everything has been a challenge. He was independent, sometimes defiant. And when he turned, into his teenage years, he kind of went dark, as some kids do, close the bedroom door, don't want to talk to mom and dad. They don't know anything, not as coachable. So we tried to give him the space to mature and learn on his own and develop his friendships. But some of the kids he tended to kind of lean toward were the other kids like him that were maybe they felt like outsiders a little bit. I think he reveled in that. He was not the kid that wanted to be the center of the main social group. He was kind of one of the kids on the outside looking in and making fun or cracking jokes at some of the other kids. So he had a good sense of humor. I don't think he was necessarily a lonely child. He had a lot of friends, but he did have a lot of alone time. He did hang with some kids that influenced him a bit. And when he was probably 12 or 13, he tried marijuana, then started drinking a little bit, things that probably we all did when we were kids. So, we didn't try to tell him that that's wrong. I mean, we really wanted to have him learn the consequences of life and guide him as much as we could. But at the same time, they talk about walls. You have brick walls for kids, which are hard barriers, hard rules. And then you have softer barriers where you kind of let them learn and do what they do. We just kept expecting him to grow out of certain things like most of us have. But he kept getting darker and deeper into experimenting with different things. And ultimately, it led to rehab and, an intervention, first of all, and then rehab and sober living. So he did develop a taste for alcohol. At one point when he was 17, we took the extreme measure because we had now started to erect brick walls. We were really wanting to try to stop the slide of his grades, his attitude, his lack of respect around the house. That was just not working. So we made the difficult decision to send him to Utah for a summer. It wasn't a boot camp like you've seen maybe some of the movies where they deprive kids, they abuse kids, they, scream in their face, they scare the life out of them. This was a therapeutic camp, and we did a lot of research on that. But were I to do it over again? I don't know, because it didn't have the effect on him that it has on a lot of other kids, which is to kind of scare them straight. For Sean, it made him really mad because he missed out on the summer before his senior year. And you can imagine how important summer is for kids when they're in high school and you want to get out of high school and you want to have summer with all your friends. And he had a bunch of concerts lined up he wanted to go to. So he came back pretty mad at mom and dad. He was going to show us, even though we drug tested him, he decided alcohol would be the easiest way to skip out on drug testing. So that accelerated. Ultimately, kind of skipping ahead, what did him in was fentanyl. He thought he was buying something else. He was trying to self-medicate, and he bought what he thought was ketamine online because he'd done a lot of research and heard that that was effective in treating depression. So he didn't know what he was getting, but he did know that he was getting into kind of treacherous territory with how much he was using, how much it was changing his life, how it was affecting his work life and whatnot. At this point, he wasn't living at home. We couldn't handle the disruption. He had moved out and was living with some other roommates, um, which he chose his roommates. And he was 21 when he moved out. He made that decision. He was an adult. Yeah, fentanyl, he passed on September. It's funny because they called us on the 4th of September. We think his spirit passed at that point, but he spent 3 days in the ICU. And on the 7th, we had to make the horrific decision to discontinue life support because he just didn't have any brain activity. So we are between the 4th and the 7th, one of those days, his spirit left, and the other day, his body shut down.
Sending much love to you and your wife. Much, much.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah. And you're pushing through. You really are. I know grief, all forms of grief, hurts incredibly. And the more you love, the harder it is.
Yeah,
And it is my belief that a parent's grief is the all time hardest.
I agree with that.
With that, you're pushing through and you're making a difference. What happened next? How did you find helping parents heal, helping fathers heal? And I know you've received signs from Sean and
That's
now gone on to compile a book with 25 stories. Tell
that's
us
right.
about that journey.
Well, in the beginning, I was really kind of focused on work. I had a busy schedule after we took care of the arrangements for Sean. And being a solo entrepreneurial business owner, I just didn't have the ability to call in sick or delegate anything. So I put my head down and dove into work, which was a good distraction. I don't know that it's necessarily the healthiest way to heal. It was just kind of putting off the inevitable for me. My wife, Sin, she's a researcher. She's really good at it. And she went online and started looking at different online groups of grieving, compassion. She started ordering lots of books. So she started educating herself on signs and on the afterlife. And she started suggesting certain books to me. We had seen some signs. We had gotten a few signs from Sean that we felt like we could attribute to him. But we were also kind of questioning whether or not we were maybe making things up or, okay, these things have always been there. We're just now noticing them. But there were some that were, for me, like they were physical. I had an experience a couple of weeks after Sean passed where I got up in the morning I couldn't sleep very well. The early days of grief, I just sleeping and waking is all kind of mixed up. And so it was dark, it was early, it was cool outside. I went to jump in the hot tub and just soak and watch the sun come up. But as I turned the corner to the hot tub, it's like it's cool morning, and I walk around the corner and I felt myself walking through almost like if you pass a dryer vent or you go to a laundromat and you pass a wall of dryer vents. It was warm and I didn't know what that was. It was so strange that I turned around and I kind of thought about it for a minute and I walked back and I tried to retrace my steps, but I couldn't recreate it. And I just said, thank you. Thank you, Sean. I attribute that to him. And it's not the only time that I've felt a physical touch. So I do believe that our children want to help. They're closer than we think. In fact, one medium that we met with several times, Farah Gibson, she says that the veil is really all around us. It's not like in the sky or some other place geographically. It's like they are right here. It's just that we can't sense that. Our senses don't pick that up. So, yeah, it's been a journey to learn about the afterlife, to read books, Joe McQuillan wrote a great book about his search for his son, Christopher, who passed tragically from a hypothermia. He fell off a boat in a very cold lake. He started to be able to connect with his son, and it was through more of a meditative process. But we're just normal guys, we're not trained mediums, we're not psychics, we're not special in any way other than, our heart is just broken open and we're trying to figure out what life means and what our life means. How do we fit into this puzzle of shattered kind of vision of what life would become? Because when a child dies, you have all these dreams of what your life will be. You will have grandchildren and your child will help you in your old age, and you save up your money because you want to pass your retirement on to your kid or kids, whatever the case may be. So we grieve so many things that are gone. And being an only child now, it almost felt like we weren't able to be parents again, not in an active way. So our identity kind of shifted. And so educating ourselves was probably the best first step, reading books and knowing that we're not alone. And here's what other people went through. Here's what other people have experienced. And in the research, my wife found Helping Parents Heal. It was a online organization, both with a website, but then also with a Facebook group. And they, at that time, this was almost 3 years ago, they had maybe 22,000 followers. And now it's up over that. I think it's 26,000 or something. So a lot of moms, mainly, probably predominantly moms, but there were a lot of dads too. She went to a few of the meetings. There are affiliate groups geographically located. So there's one here in the Southern California area. But at the time that she learned about Helping Parents Heal, that was just about the time that they were going to do their 2020 conference. And it's just a 8-hour drive from us to Phoenix. So she asked me if I'd go. And I said, sure, I'll go. We could do it. We made the time for it. And I thought I'd be supporting her. And I was willing to learn as well. I'm not closed-minded at all. It's just that going to a conference of hundreds of people that all had had their same tragedy, it wasn't probably the first thing that I would have picked to do. I thought,
Right.
boy, that's going to be a downer. But boy, I was wrong. It was really an uplifting experience. And it was great to meet so many other parents who are healing and connecting with each other and with their kids, which is a part of the healing process for many of us.
And there's something like 800 people there, wasn't there? They put on
Yeah.
big,
Yeah.
big conferences.
Yes, yes. It's held at a Sheraton there. And we took over the whole hotel. We had the whole ballroom and multiple breakout rooms. It was really a very interesting experience. And at that conference, we had a reading. It was one of these gallery readings where a medium is on stage and it's in the main assembly. So there's 800 parents. So you got to figure there's 800 or more kids, that are all
Right.
wanting to talk to their parents. And again, Farrah Gibson is the medium that kind of just totally revolutionized our worldview on where Sean is, because she connected with Sean. It was so thrilling and maybe a little, I don't know if embarrassing is the right word, but when you're in a group of people that big and then your kid starts talking to you and you stand up and you realize that this is just absolutely incontrovertible evidence. And the video is available online. I created a YouTube video that is side by side of her reading and then of the evidence, because I have a video background. I could put it together and actually show the evidence, which was kind of fun. And so that really changed things for us. That whole conference was a game changer. And since then, I've learned about the Fathers Group. Helping Fathers Heal is one of the affiliate groups. And that's where I came to know some of the other men that helped write this book.
Could you tell us a little bit about that evidence? Because I know we all have a skeptical mind,
Mhm.
and there's evidence, and then there's evidence, right? There's some things that are vague, and there's some things that there's no possible way that anybody could get. Could you share with us some of those things that she said, some of that evidence?
Sure. Yeah. Farrah's very unique in that she was able in the room to kind of pinpoint where the parents were sitting. That was kind of an unusual thing compared to other mediums we've seen there at the conference. She was able to kind of know the child was helping to guide her to a side of the room. So she kind of walked over to our side of the room, and then she started talking about pulling up funny socks, crazy socks, really stupid colors. And that was something that our son loved to wear, chili pepper socks or flamingos or pelicans. In fact, he and I both had the same pair of socks. My wife had gotten us each a pair. So that was kind of one of our things was pelicans, which we got pelican tattoos at one point, Sean and I did. So she started talking about these socks and nobody else really understood it, but we were kind of ribbing each other like, yeah, Sean loved those. And so we put our hand up and she came over and she said a little bit more about the socks and how I would wear them as well. And so that became a piece of evidence. And so she knew she'd locked on to us. And so we stood up and she talked about his love of music. And that's Sean over my shoulder. If you're watching this, I don't, some people watch, some people just listen, but in the video, there is a picture of Sean and that's his guitar behind me. She started talking about how he had marked up. She said he's carving his name in something. Is somebody carving wood? And we didn't know right off the bat. We were like unsure about that. And she said, the guitar, did he do something with the guitar? And then it clicked because, yes, his acoustic guitar, he wrote all over the back, he carved in it, he wrote little messages, he even wrote, I'm so sorry, mom and dad. And there's another message in the back of the guitar that says, this is my finale, which we didn't see any of this until after we'd recovered his belongings. So she got the guitar part. Then she said, but dad, you're trying to play. And that was true. And then she said, but you can't get the bar chords. And she said it in a teasing way, just like Sean would say it. And that is exactly true. I am not good at that. And then she brought up a piece of evidence about a deck that we were building in the backyard. And this was the most mind blowing because it was just 2 or 3 weeks earlier that I had finished building a deck. And I finished a piece of wood with resin and I didn't mix enough resin. So I had to do another batch, which you never want to do. Resin needs to cure all at the same time. So Sean brought through this evidence about the deck. And then he said through Farah, but you didn't do it right. You screwed it up. It doesn't even match. Those were the words that he used, she used. And so in the video that I created, you can see the division of where the first pour of resin was and the second pour. And by that time, my wife and I, we were just tingling. We were so blown away, and the people in the audience were clapping because it was such a crazy, detailed kind of reading full of personality. So those were some of the biggest things that come to mind immediately. I think we counted there was maybe 20 pieces of evidence that she gave us all in a 7-minute period, but it was life-changing for us. At that point, we knew that Sean was watching what we were doing and that he's still there and we are still having a relationship to some extent, that we love each other and care for each other, but we just can't touch each other the same way that we used to be able to.
But still very much alive.
Yeah.
Would
Yeah.
you tell us again where we can see the video? Fathers
If you go
Heal?
to Helping Parents Heal you go to the affiliate groups page, there is an affiliate group, little drop down for Helping Fathers Heal. And so if you go to that, you'll see information about the book. And then a little further down, you'll see bios of the different affiliate leaders. I'm one of the affiliate leaders. And at the very end of my bio, there is a link to Farah Gibson's reading. You can also just search YouTube, but if you search Farah Gibson amazing medium readings, you're going to see a bunch of them. So I thought that would be a good title because it would be searchable, but she's given so many amazing readings that it's not as easy to search that way. So you may put it in the show notes as well, but that link is on the Helping Fathers Heal affiliate page.
Thank you for that. When
Yeah.
you say you're an affiliate, do you host live events or online things or
So
both?
we meet weekly on Zoom, which is a little bit different than the other affiliate groups. I think they have monthly meetings and they're in person because they're geographically located. Whereas the Fathers group is guys from all over Canada, the United States. We have one dad in Brazil. We've had people join us from the UK, although it's hardship due to the time difference, but it's not geographic. So it is a weekly meeting, which is really good because it helps us to really kind of get to know each other on a week to week basis. In this grieving space, things change so quickly week to week that every week there's going to be a dad that either celebrating something like a sign or a dream, or a dad that's having a hard week because of an anniversary or something that may have triggered a certain emotional response. You know, grief isn't a linear thing. You go up, you go down, you think you're better, then you go back, you regress, you progress. So weekly meetings are really good. And even though it's on Zoom, I'd say that we are a very tight knit group. There's over 600 dads that have joined Helping Fathers Heal as a Facebook group. But the Zoom call each week is 30 to 40 dads. We're usually a core group of dads, but we always, unfortunately, we have new dads coming on because we still have kids that are passing and the dads need to go somewhere. So hopefully we're becoming more visible as an alternative or as a resource for fathers.
What day and time do you host that?
Yeah,
Just
it's
getting the
Wednesday
word out.
nights.
Wednesday nights.
Wednesdays, 5 p.m. Pacific time, so 8 p.m. Eastern time.
Okay.
And if you join the Helping Fathers Heal affiliate group, there's a Facebook page and there's a couple of questions just to kind of verify that you have a child in spirit, because we want to make sure that all the members are, we don't want any solicitation. We just wanted to keep it to be dads, real guys that are in the same boat.
Well, thank you for doing that. And I know we've got lots of dads listening to this right now and may
It
feel at
helps.
home with being part of it.
Yeah, it definitely helps.
Makes a difference. So, helping fathers heal to all of a sudden having this beautiful book with 25 chapters. Well, what brought that about? Tell us about that journey.
I'm not an author, so I never really even thought about doing a book. I did have a medium reading after Farah. The first medium reading we had that was a one-on-one was with medium Corrine. She's here in San Diego, but it was still online. And she said in the reading that Sean was telling her that there's a book in me. And I didn't know what that meant. I'd never thought of that. It didn't appeal to me, to be honest. I don't journal much. I don't write a lot. I am a storyteller and I do enjoy the video part of storytelling, but to sit and put the story down on paper had never occurred to me. I brought it up to some of the dads in one of our affiliate group meetings, our Zoom call, and I just asked, does this appeal to anybody? Does anybody think this is an idea that you'd want to write a chapter? Would we have enough guys that might want to write one chapter, just 4, 5, 6 pages, and tell us the story about your child? And what kind of a child was this? And what was your relationship like? And so about 8 hands went up the first night that I brought it up. And so I thought, wow, I don't know how we'll do this. I got to figure this out. So I wrote a series of questions, 10 questions, thinking, okay, this would help me. It's more like a worksheet, so like homework, to be able to answer questions about, tell us about your child, and then taking us through the whole narrative arc of a story about the transition of your child. And then what were the first days like? What did you experience? And where did you find some help? What surprised you about grief? What kinds of signs have you had? Have you had any? Is there anything that you would have as advice to another dad who may be reading this? Every dad was given 10 questions that they could simply answer in a paragraph or two. And then they've got a story, they've got a chapter. Tom Madsen helped me edit the book. Some of the dads, we did a lot of phone interviews to try to really pull out the story and help them write it. So the editing process was quite extensive. But the fact that we were able to spread the writing out to 25 other guys, because ultimately, after asking this question over a 2-month period, I had 25 volunteers. And then the editing process took about 7 or 8 months. And then we were able to get the book out in April. So it surprised me that we had so many guys willing to do it. And it was so heartening for me. It was very, rewarding to hear the dads say that this was cathartic for them, that just the process of going back through not just the transition and the pain of that moment, but go back even further and start writing about the life that they had with that child and some of those memories. Some of the kids had physical illness, had suffered with cancer for years. And so there's a variety of ways that these children had decided to transition, and that was their soul plan. So hearing how those children lived and how their lives were celebrated and the relationships with their dads, and then learning the subsequent fallout from that and how they found help. That's really the purpose of the book, is just to give somebody that's reading it a bit of kind of charting a course of, this is how it can look. And there's 25 different stories, so they're not all the same. But many of us had the same initial reaction of paralysis and fog and just inability to think coherently, or right after a child dies, you have to do all this crazy decision making of making arrangements and then communicating with family and communicating with that kid's friends' families. And it's just a really weird time. But by connecting both with our children and then also as dads in this group, we've connected with each other. That's really where we've found a sense of hope that our children are still with us and that we're going to be okay, and that they didn't die. Their life goes on. Their body isn't here. So being able to kind of discover that as a father in the midst of your grief, to be able to feel that, is just so relieving. It's such a wonderful feeling, a healing feeling, knowing that you're not alone, really, that there is a path to healing and you don't have to feel isolated. That's probably the worst thing many people choose to do when they lose someone that they love, is that they just lock the door and go to bed and they never come out. Certainly there's a time and a place for that, but you have to reach out. That's what we're here to do, is to love each other and to learn how to love. And our children are still out there available to help us learn that lesson.
Thank you. I want to just show off the book.
Yeah,
Here we go. Yeah.
that's my son, Sean, on the cover.
Oh, beautiful. Helping
Yeah.
fathers heal.
It's not like a portrait. For those of you that don't see the book, it's just a kind of a shadow silhouette. So, you don't have any real gender identification, ethnic identification. It's just this child in a warrior pose, with kind of that youthful energy. Yeah, we just wanted to have everything be about the hope that can come with having that relationship continue.
Is it a book for anyone or just dads?
Yes, it's a book for anyone, dads, moms, because it could be a spouse might not understand how the father's grieving, the siblings or relatives, anybody that wants to learn about the grieving process and what's going on in the mind of that other person that they might not understand, and they might want to develop a certain kind of empathy toward, wow, what are they going through? What should I say to a person who's grieving? I don't have the right words. What if I say something and they start crying? If people are very uncomfortable with us grievers, but if they can find a safe spot, I think this book is a very healthy way for people to understand what grieving looks like, what we're going through, and what we need. And what we need is for people to stay with us, to hang with us, to have the courage to just ask us how we're doing and just sit there and listen and not try to fix anything. And as dads, that's what naturally, we try to fix stuff. We try to protect our loved ones. We may feel a certain special sense of guilt because our child didn't have the full life that everybody would expect. And so I do think that fathers have an extra element of complexity with their grief because of that societal expectation of the man being strong, not showing much emotion, being able to carry on. Your boss wants you to get back to work. It's been 4 weeks. Are you over it yet? You're having a bad day. Oh, I don't want to talk to him. I'm going to leave him alone. No, we'd love to be able to be human. And if we look like we're having a bad day, just ask us, hey, can I do anything for you? Can I buy you a cup of coffee? You want to take a
Right.
walk? Just be with us. That's the message.
That can be the simplest thing to say too. I don't know what you're feeling or what you're going through, but I just want you to know I'm here for you. You
Yeah,
know, use me. I'm here to listen. I'm here to be your friend.
that's right.
Chris, would you share some of the stories that are in the book? I don't want to say favorite because I know they're all good, but any stories that come to mind of signs or different reasons your fellow fathers believe their kids are with them?
I feel like they're all my children at this point. I've read them so many times in the editing process. I feel so intimate with all of these kids. And I will share one thing. I had a reading with a medium. Her name is Isabella Johnson. And this was when the book was in the final editing stages. And she said something about the kids are excited to tell their story. And I thought, wow, this is cool. This is great. So she didn't know anything about the book. She knew I was from Helping Fathers Heal because that's kind of how we found her, is through the Helping Parents Heal list of approved mediums. And then she said, there's more boys than girls. And she even said, it looks like there's only about 7 girls. In going back then, first time, late in the process, I go back, I count all the chapters. Sure enough, it was 7 girls that were featured in the stories, and the rest were boys. Some of the dads that are the quietest in the group meetings, the Zoom meetings, had the most heartfelt stories. And some shared my experience with fentanyl because that is such a killer of our children right now. And there's lovely stories of kids. I believe our kids continue to work with us, through us, inspire us, nudge us. And there's fathers that are doing great advocacy work on drug awareness, on mental health issues. The very first chapter in the book is just a beautiful chapter, tragic, heartbreaking story of a suicide. But the author, Harry Brule, has taken it upon himself to quit his other job and is now working in the mental health area, helping other children, especially with a disorder that is not typically diagnosed before you're 18, because certain psychologists or psychiatrists don't want to diagnose a kid that's going through adolescence with something that is an emotionally disturbing. It's borderline personality disorder, BPD. It is what happens when you have kind of a bipolar or two poles. You go from anxiety, depression, isolation, nobody loves me, I'm worthless, to the other extreme. And so now this father is doing advocacy work for that to help other young people. Other dads are doing assemblies where they talk to kids at schools. So many of these stories are really special to me. And the kids just are so tender, and many of them very sensitive. Many of the dads describe their children as seemingly having old souls. And that makes total sense when you talk to mediums or people who are tuned into that, that these would have probably been perhaps advanced souls that decided they are going to make that hard choice to leave early and make room for a spiritual experience for the parents. So, without a doubt, it's made all of the dads more spiritually sensitive and more in tune with their child in a way that they may not have been in physical form.
Right. And that relationship continues, which brings me to my next question. How does your relationship with your son continue? Are you talking to him? Are you asking for signs? You include him in everything? I'm guessing you do.
Yeah, I've got him right here in front of me. In fact, I always carry this around. This is a little piece of glass that we had blown glass, and his ashes are in it. And I just keep it in my pocket as a kind of a touchstone. But yeah, we talk to him. We thank him for signs. I have dreams. My wife has had a couple of dreams, but not as many, but we do have dreams. I know she's doing a lot of meditation, and she does get a sensory perception of Sean being close by. But I would say that we still maintain that personality and relationship, even though it's not as easy as picking up the phone and and calling them. That's what we miss the most, is just being able to dial up a number or, see him in person. But yeah, we do still have a relationship with him, and it's brought us closer together as a as a couple, which I know grief can oftentimes be a real difficult thing for a couple to survive. So I do think reading this book or reading other books about this so that the parents can kind of both be understanding where each other is, give each other space when necessary, but then help each other when the opportunity arises. A lot of the dads have experienced a closer relationship with their family and with their spouse because of the passing of that child. I do look forward to signs in those dreams, really vivid dreams. Just last week, I had one. Sean had a dog, and this is one of those things where that dog was a piece of our history with him. And, you know, dogs only live so many years, and we knew this dog was getting older, but we had 3 years with this dog since Sean passed. So there was always this feeling of that's Sean's dog. And we always had memories with the two of them playing and him growing up, loving on that dog. And last week we did have to put it to sleep. I knew it was going to happen the day before. We had already made the arrangements for the vet to come to the house and euthanize the dog. So the night before, I did have a very vivid dream with Sean, and I was on a couch. He was sitting next to me. I had my arm around him, and he was kind of squirming around a little bit. He was probably about 8 or 9. He was younger, about the age he would have been when he got the dog. And the dog was curled up on the floor next to the couch. Most of the times in these dreams, there's not like verbal communication, but I just knew what he was telling me was, it's okay. And you're doing the right thing. It was a difficult decision for us if the dog was ready or not. And he was basically reaffirming and assuring me that it was okay. And now I know they're together in heaven playing. So I just passed that doggy spirit on to him to take care of.
Oh, sending you guys love for that too. It's the worst pain imaginable. Just after my dad passed, my aunt and I, who share a house, had a cat, and he got very, very sick. And we had that cat for a number of years. And even though the
Mm.
vet said there's not a chance that he's going to get better, it didn't matter. We still pumped thousands of dollars in, and he
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
make it.
That's
It's
the thing.
tough.
You just don't want to prolong the pain.
No, you don't. You don't. We do
Yeah.
what we can, but our animals are alive and well. We're going to see them all again. I tell you that welcoming committee when it's our time is just going to be huge, and all those little animal faces are going to be there as well. I
Yeah.
say little, somebody could have a horse. Oh, yes. Chris, what else would you like to share with our time together? Is there any questions I haven't asked you, or any thoughts you'd like to share with those who are listening?
Well, I think if you're listening to this, then you probably are looking for help. You're trying to understand grief. I truly believe that it does help to feel like you're not alone, to try to connect with people who understand. If you're a guy like me, sometimes it's helpful to be in a safe space with other guys because we do have a certain kind of rapport with each other in our group, Helping Fathers Heal. I mean, we tell jokes, we laugh, I mean, we drop F bombs. We close each meeting with stupid dad jokes just so that we try to end on a lighter note. So, for anybody who may be reluctant to reach out and try to find help in a group, because for me, sitting in a group, because we went to Al Anon for years because Sean was in an addictive cycle. I got help from it, but I didn't look forward to it. And sometimes for guys, being in a group setting just isn't as comfortable. But our group really is healing and fun. And whether it's our group or another group, I just encourage anybody that's listening to this and feeling that you want some help during your grief journey to find a group of people that you can feel safe with. I think that's the most important thing. And it doesn't have to be a bunch of people, it can be one or two people. But sometimes your wife can't do everything. That's too much pressure on a relationship to have that other person be the person that saves you. So finding your tribe, so to speak, and finding people who understand you and that you can talk to and you can reminisce and tell stories. and not feel like that's a closet door that you can't open. I like to be able to share my memories with Sean, with some of my friends. For them, it doesn't have to be this red flag of, oh no, he's talking about his kid again. We're going to go down that road and he's going to start crying and it's going to be uncomfortable. I got to get out of here. Because I don't cry every time. Sometimes I just hear a song and it's like, I remember going to this concert with Sean. This is great. I would just encourage anybody in a grief state to reach out and find people who you can feel safe being yourself with.
People need people,
Yeah.
whether we're grieving or not. And I find the worst place that we can go by ourselves is in our own mind.
Yeah. Amen.
The
It's
stories, the
it's a
guilt,
wicked
the what
spiral.
ifs. It's brutal. It's
Yeah.
absolutely brutal. We would never be as hard on other people or tell them the thoughts in our head that we tell ourselves.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
I
because there's
know,
multiple people in there.
oh, yeah,
There's the spirit of truth and guidance. And then there's also all the other stuff that you bring with you as a human and all of your doubts. So sometimes you just need to work these things out. And also in the book, last thing too, in terms of tools, there are a variety of tools that are mentioned that different fathers have used, whether it's grief counseling or EMDR or other types of physical work, kinetic work. Not everything is going to be the same for every person. So I definitely believe in connecting with other people, but I also think that there are therapies, whether it's meditating or just getting out for a walk or binaural beats, which is kind of a type of meditation with an auditory influence. There are ways that you can help yourself, and there are tools in the book where you might find different ways that you haven't thought of before. Again, it's all about storytelling. This book is about the stories of 25 dads and how they've made it through that initial valley, that we're not all healed. We never will be. It never ends, but at least we're not where we were that first week, that first few days. We're able to find a way to stretch and grow and reach out and connect with each other and with our child in spirit.
thank you. I did think of one more question. If somebody's heart is heavy because they're experiencing a lot of guilt as a parent, what advice would you give them?
If you're struggling with guilt, it may be helpful to talk to somebody who can give you some professional, objective advice. And it may be somebody that is not in your friendship circle. You may need to have a grief counselor or somebody just listen and try to give you some sense of perspective, because I think grief, a lot of it is just about your own perspective, and you're putting too much importance on what you did or didn't do. So sometimes an objective, professional, compassionate person can give you that sense of reality, that you did everything you could. And that is one of the messages that we tend to get from our children on the other side. And I'm not talking about just Sean, many, many of the other dads and parents. That seems to be a theme that is very consistent, as our parents want us to know that you did everything you could, and they want us to feel at peace. But if you've got a really strong response, the guilt response, that can be very toxic. So I would encourage talking to somebody. And medium readings for me have also been very helpful. I've heard other people say it's like worth a year of therapy. Just having a good medium reading can be so healing when you feel like you've connected with that child and that child has reassured you that this is the plan. This was the way it was supposed to happen.
And I'm alive. I'm going to see you again. A lot
Yeah.
of the kids are helping others. There's some unbelievably wonderful stories I've heard
Yeah.
from parents. The kids continue to make a difference.
Yeah. And
There's a big
helping parents
picture.
heal, there's a great resource. There's vetted mediums on that website. So if you're not sure who to go to and you're afraid that you don't want to be brought into an area where you don't trust somebody, because this is a spiritual, kind of a non-physical type thing, but those mediums on their list have all been vetted. There's a very scientific way that they kind of weed out the mediums and make sure that they're all credible. And there's other resources, and even the conference that they do every 2 years, wonderful resource. Yeah, I would explore the website helpingparentsheal.org if you're in that place. educate yourself and then reach out to somebody who can help you.
And there's so much more on their website. Even, like I said, if you're not a parent or a sibling, you can see their YouTube channel. And
Mm-hmm.
there's so many videos between mediums and experts and
Mm-hmm.
grief and afterlife. It's the
Yeah. And caring listeners, there's a list of people who are just other parents who you can call. We're not professionals. We are caring listeners, and you can
oh, it's
call us
beautiful.
anytime.
Oh, wonderful. Well, Chris, thank you so much for being our guest here today.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's been fun. Thanks.
It has been
It's
fun.
always fun to talk about Sean, and I celebrate his life. I don't let that one thing define my life anymore or his. So thank you for allowing me to share that story.
My pleasure. And for our listener or our viewer, thank you for taking the time to be with us today. As a reminder, the book is called Helping Fathers Heal: Grief, Hope, and Our Search for Connection. And yes, in the show notes, I've got links to Chris's website, which is chrisryanvideo.com, also to helpingparentsheal.org, and the video that he mentioned as well. So check out that description beneath. What else do I want to tell you? I'm a big, big, big fan of Helping Parents Heal. Good people, good organization, and I just can't say enough good things about them. With me, as a reminder, my home base, wedon'tdie.com. I mentioned my book, which you see behind me. It's not so that you go buy it. If you want a copy, feel free to buy it, but it is powerful. It contains powerful words. Chapter 10,
Mhm.
like I said, is about grief. It's about why we grieve, what's happening. It gives tools to help move through the grieving process. It is so important, like Chris said, to connect and not be alone. And there's a lot of more good things in that. So you can have a copy of that.
Mhm.
And also, please feel free to join us on our Sunday gathering. It is free. It is like Chris says about his Zoom groups, it's positive. People think of online services as heavy and prayer and deep. They're fun, they're inspirational. It's all about living life. And as joyful as this may sound, we have 3 or 4 people from the spirit world come through with our medium and just
Mhm.
show how close they really are with evidence. So even if your loved one doesn't come through, they may, but if they
Mhm.
don't, you get to see just really how close our loved ones are and how much a part of our lives they still are, and that we will see them again. So you can come join us on a Sunday gathering. We also have great medium classes. I tell everyone you're a divine soul having a human experience. And for way less than a cost of a medium reading, you get to practice with your own soul. See how you receive information. Learn how to sit in the power and quiet your mind. And you know what? You work with other people in breakout rooms in these classes. And sometimes you're like, I didn't know that, but you're giving evidence to others and your loved ones work through as well from the other side. So it's another wonderful way to connect with your loved ones and just know how close they are. So in closing, I'm Sandra Champlain. It's always my pleasure to be your host on We Don't Die Radio. I do believe that life is an education for the soul and that your life here on earth is important. You are one of a kind. You may not go on to write a book or have a Zoom group or anything like that, but the path that you are walking, the difficulties, the joys, all of that has made you who you are. There's another person on this planet that needs to hear your words, and please never discount the journey that you've been on. It may hurt, it may be brutal, but in time, I know you'll make a difference if you're not already doing so. So, with that, I really want to thank you for listening or for watching, and we'll see you again soon.